Testing. It did go to that box.
Someone, I heard Claudia say testing.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank
Is
you,
that
Don.
better? Maybe Tim can speak. Tim Murphy, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, we're good there. Let me see on YouTube.
1, 2, 3, testing.
Thanks,
Works-
Mike.
Works for me.
Great, thank you. Okay, all right, back to it. Thank you.
So we can now bring our,
Oh, okay, now, actually, it was just.
Hold on.
Okay,
It did go
okay,
to that
we're good.
box. He's muted. Okay,
so we can now bring our bodies to the Glens Falls Hospital for storage,
okay.
but we have to go to Amsterdam for an autopsy. And the problem with having to go to Amsterdam is we have to set a time. We have to take the body down. We have to wait. And as soon as they're done with the autopsy, we have to bring it back. So this is normally, we take the bodies to the Glens Falls Hospital. We call a funeral home. They take the body to the Glens Falls Hospital. The autopsy is done by the doctor. I go to a lot of them, but it's not mandatory. And as soon as we're done, we call the funeral home that's going to be taking care of the remains to come pick the body up. So sometimes they're stored for a couple of days there because Dr. Sikorica's was at other places doing autopsies. But now we don't have that luxury of just waiting. We have to go down, wait. So we did it yesterday and it was a minimum of 3 hours. Now we're down there. Now we're for the autopsy. This was a fairly easy autopsy. Now we're for that to take place and an hour back. So it was a minimum of 3 hours. And the one we did yesterday, I will say, was for Washington County. But I went down to meet with this Dr. Schwartz and everything and discuss things with him, see if he's willing to do all of ours, which he is. The problem is this is going to be over and above a regular coroner's removal. Now, I set a fee for Washington County of $350. This is over and above the money that we pay for the initial removal from the house to the hospital, because we can't take them right down to Amsterdam. We have to wait for a day, and everything. So we're looking at added money there. Dr. Schwartz is going to charge $1,000 for an autopsy. We don't know what St. Mary's is going to charge the county to use their morgue for this. I'm not sure. My understanding is that we were paying Glens Falls $1,200 a case to use their morgue, plus Dr. Sikorica's fee. And then they charge if x-rays are needed or anything like that. That's all at half of what a normal x-ray would charge. The other situation we're going to run into is, like Terry can, comment on this a little bit, is if we have a criminal case, then it becomes a forensic case. At this point, we don't know where we're going to take a forensic case. And we may have to go to Syracuse, Rochester, New York City, because if it's a criminal case, you need a forensic pathologist, not just that can testify in court. And, he's forensic pathologist, I believe, has to do 2 more years of residency over and above a regular pathologist. So at this point, if we do have, we're hoping we don't have any real quick, but if we do, we have to find a place to send the. So I don't know whether, this comes to the personnel committee. I would just like to get, approval for to use St. Mary's at the 1,000. And as I say, I don't have a cost of that, but he did say it'll be less. The doctor, he has to talk with their people too, and to use St. Mary's Hospital in Amsterdam And so right now we can continue to use the hospital facilities as far as, because this was a huge thing. I mean, the way it was going over there, the hospital was making money and they're just putting in a brand new 12 space cooler. They have had 4. Now they're putting in a 12 space cooler. And now what are we going to do with it? You know, I think Ryan said that they said over the hospital that if we can find a doctor to come in and do autopsies that's vaccinated, it would be allowed. So.
Let me turn to Administrator Moore and see if he has any recommendations for action that we need to take out of today. Because I understand there's already some money budgeted, so it's not necessarily a monetary thing. It's, we need contracts with St. Mary's or other
Right,
entities in order to do the autopsy.
right. When we enter into these services with anyone other than the, what's already authorized by the board, it'll generate bills that we have to pay, and we're not going to be able to pay the bills unless we have authorization from the board to enter into agreements with the other providers. So we have some idea of where at least some of this can land. It's a partial picture at this point because we don't have all the hospital fees
Right. We don't
worked
have,
into it. And then we're still having to figure out where the autopsies that need a forensic pathologist will land. So this is all a work in progress. We're going to need to be doing autopsies in the meantime. So I think probably the best way to do this is to delegate to the chair, to me, to a combination, the ability to figure this out and enter into agreements, subject to further reporting to this Board of Supervisors as to what the terms of those agreements are.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, I think that's a solid recommendation, and I'd be happy to move that forward, that our staff be authorized. I mean, it's one of those COVID things, right? And we need to be flexible, and we need to be able to get through this period to make such, to enter into such agreements and to expend such dollars as are necessary or relative to this matter. And just as an aside and a question, not that it should factor into this primarily, but this might even be something that ARPA dollars under COVID, or some of our COVID relief dollars, might be eligible for, because it's an expense as a result of COVID. But I would just throw that out there as a possibility. But I think that I think we need to author, like we did with the meals. I think we're going to have to authorize staff to take such actions as to keep this from becoming, a crisis.
Thank
I
you.
would make
So
that as a motion.
good. That's what I was going to say. Is that a motion? And just to clarify, staff, so Administrator Moore, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Cuomo
Well, and if the agreement needs to be signed by the
signed
chair-
by our chair.
by the chair,
Yeah.
we authorize the chair to sign such.
Once they
I guess you
identify.
could call them interim agreements.
Okay. Do I have a second? Supervisor McGowan? Then I saw Supervisor Driscoll. Did you have your hand up for a question?
Yes, I did. I guess the word interim is where I was going. It's going to be kind of unlike most of our agreements, contracts, until which time we need to go back to the regular way of doing things. So, yeah, I concur and in agreement. Thanks.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, maybe we put it,
Doable.
do you want to put an end date on it towards till the end of the year, or do you not want to be that, okay?
Until
don't
which time it's
All right.
necessary to,
Okay.
Supervisor McGowan, you did have your hand up, and then over here.
Yes, I do wholeheartedly agree with Supervisor Conover and Supervisor Driscoll. This is an important issue, and it's been brought up in the past, when I was looking into like a regional morgue, not knowing that really this was having, but really to simplify it and keep costs in it. So, but no, I full-heartedly stand behind this and honored to second it.
Okay. Supervisor McDevitt?
Thank you. I just had a quick question. Good morning, Tim. Just a piece of this kind of fascinating story is Dr. Sikora. He did not refuse to get vaccinated,
will
doesn't want
not
to
get
get
vaccinated.
Say that again?
Yes, he's not vaccinated and he's not going to get vaccinated.
Okay. A medical doctor doesn't want to. Okay, thank you.
All right. I'm gonna call the question. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries.
I
Thank,
just,
yep.
is the 350 okay? The additional $350? We're probably going to have some problems with some funeral homes saying I'm not going to do it, but I know I can find funeral homes that will do it.
I think that you're gonna have the authorization that you need
Yeah,
to enter into those contracts
okay,
to the best that you can for right now.
okay.
Tim, what we'll do here is that's blanket authorization to do anything we need to do to make sure the services are performed. So we need to sit down and flesh all of this out as to what it actually is. And then when the board passes the resolution, the chair will be able to execute those agreements, and then we'll be able to get people paid.
Okay, you want to meet with me at another time or?
I do. I'll reach out.
You reach out to me and yeah, I'm pretty much available unless I'm in the middle of something. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Okay, there is a new item that I would like to extend the floor to Supervisor Hogan if no one has any objections. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I appreciate the time, especially since I don't even sit on this committee. But Ethan Gaddy in the Planning Department has brought to our attention a grant opportunity. Ethan, do you want to describe the grant?
Hi, yes, thanks for having me. So we recently were looking at a municipal zero emission vehicle infrastructure grant program. This is being provided through the DEC's Climate Smart Community Program. In a nutshell, this program provides us with full reimbursement for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations. Fill out an application, find a contractor, get it installed. The county will be reimbursed. So the big thing is finding the land to put this on, the appropriate location, and then also figuring out the ongoing operations and maintenance costs. This grant is due on the 29th. We don't need to commit any resources to this at this point. I think right now we just need authorization to submit on this. I've spoken to a number of operators of EV charging stations throughout the county. You know, this isn't necessarily a money maker for the county, but what it is an amenity for visitors. You know, as more and more EVs are put on the road in New York State and Canada, we're going to find that visitors to the county are going to be looking for EV charging stations. Right now, we do have some deficiencies in more of the up-county areas, so there are opportunities to put these stations in. Still need to do a little bit of research on, you know, utilization rates of these charging stations, what the actual costs would be for these two different levels of really fast charger or a slower charger, and then figure out, you know, whether it's a private business that would like to host one of these stations and pay for the operations and maintenance and take advantage of our ability to get this grant for free installation hardware costs. So I've been working with Supervisor Hogan, Supervisor Bramer on, you know, exploring this grant, reaching out to people who have already been doing this and figure out, hey, is this a reasonable thing to do?
So Ethan, I'm sorry, go ahead, Supervisor Hogan.
No, go ahead.
Do we need to commit any dollars up front, or do you just need the authorization to submit for the application, submit the application?
We need authorization to submit the application, which is due on the 29th of this month.
Okay, so, all right. Yes, Supervisor McGowan?
Well, I'll make that motion, move this forward. I think this is a very important program to move forward. I am seeing more and more of the cars out there, and I believe probably the best thing to do if really for transient people and that they're, you know, coming through the quick chargers are probably the best. And like I said, we have an opportunity to move for a grant to get these in and get some businesses that want to put them in. It's just beneficial for our whole county. So I like to make a motion to apply for this grant.
Okay, second by Supervisor Driscoll. I'll say, Ethan did mention there's more research to be done about whether we do the level 2 or the level 3 or where we put these. So That's coming down the road, but in order to get in time for the application deadline, that's the reason for coming now, because we don't have another committee meeting of economic growth before our board meeting. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm not opposed to this, but I just want people to understand, we have 5 charging stations out front that have been brought in a whopping $34 in the last 11 months. So they're not being used. Now, I'm not opposed to applying for this grant, but that right there is one of the busiest streets in all of Queensbury and Lake George, and no one's using it. So I'm not sure how we get people to use it, but they're not using it. So I'm just pointing that out, but I'm not against the grant going for it.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Supervisor Beatty. I think that is a fair observation. However, we've also learned some things after the installation of those. And I think we have more information now on where to site things and the types of chargers that we need to put in, but it was a fair observation.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could,
Yes.
there are, there are a good number of resources out there that have looked at EV charging stations as a tourism initiative. I think we can learn from our mistakes and go forward from there, right?
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of money that we're making. We're not in this business to make money. It's more of the convenience. But really, the key factor, I think, is location. Like if those chargers were placed up, up into the $1 Million Mile, where people didn't have to walk so far up there and wait for the car to charge, would have been probably more behoovious of us to put them up there. But as Supervisor Hogan says, we have learned some things, and we need to move forward with this. And really, placement is a key factor. So thank you.
All right, one more. Supervisor Beatty, then Supervisor Bruno.
Thanks.
2 more.
Yeah, location is key, but the way the last grant was written, we had to have it on county property. That's why we put it out here. We thought that was the best location, and it had to be on county property.
May I speak?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've identified other pieces of county property through
That would
that
be-
are,
Have more action. Thank you.
yeah.
Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I think that this is an evolutionary thing. In other words, there are only so many electric vehicles on the road now, and as time goes on, they will increase, and the usage of these charging stations will increase. And for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with Tesla. When you program a route, this is Tesla now, they will direct you to charging stations which are spaced such that you're not going to run out of juice. And, like if you're going to Virginia, there'd be stations every so often. So my point is, I think, again, as time goes on, you'll see more of these, see more electric vehicles, and the manufacturers will direct you to those sites, those charging sites. So I think it's a good thing, and it's just a matter, as you said, of where to site them, make it as convenient as you can. So I'm firmly behind this. Thank you.
Okay, last one. Supervisor McDevitt.
Just a quick, there was an article in a New York paper within the last week or two. 30% of the automobile production of the Ford Motor Company will be electric vehicles within the next 10 years. This is coming. It may not be here now, but that's where the whole industry is going. So makes sense to me.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Thank you, Supervisor Hogan, and thank you, Mr. Gaddy, for being with us this morning on short notice. Okay, we do need to go into executive session for a few items. I also know that there are some members of the public here, and so without objection, I would like to invite Mr. McGlinch up to the podium and he can address the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Bramer. Thank you, everyone. I'm a little nervous here. I've never done this before. written this down here. I'm here to speak to you about and ask you for help with my daughter Kyla's house in Warrensburg. Her and her 2 children live there. It's gonna go up to auction in a week or so for back taxes. We're not denying the taxes are overdue. We've attempted to make a payment and pay off the taxes, but we're told it was too late. It was at the office. They suggested we speak to the county attorney, which we did. I believe it was Mr. Twilliger called us back and suggested we asked the judge to rescind the order, but I spoke to numerous attorneys, said it was too late. The home was in Kyla's mother's name, and she was responsible for taxes, which she obviously didn't pay. Her mother died this past year. Kyla suffers with bipolar disorder and has some PTSD issues. Been in depression and not able to deal with this essentially. She has 2 school-age children at home, and with COVID and everything, that didn't help. So by the time she came to grips with this and realized the urgency, it was too late. And she asked for my help, and that's when we came here, and it was just too late. Kyla also has a younger sister who's in the Navy. She's in Virginia. She has an interest in this. She also wasn't aware, but she's affected by it. So we have no other legal recourse. We're not denying the taxes are due. We're not asking for the taxes to be eliminated. We just want the opportunity to get to a probate court, get the deed transferred to her name so she can get a mortgage or sell it and pay the debt off. It's my understanding from reading the county, auction brochure that the board can delay, postpone, or cancel an auction at any time. So basically I'm begging you, asking you to help with this. And again, we're not asking for it to eliminate it. I am prepared to put a percentage to start paying off and get some kind of arrangement to pay them. But ultimately, we'd like to get the deed transferred and a mortgage or sell the home so they can have something. Her and her 2 children don't lose their home.
A very difficult situation. I did become aware of this a couple days ago, or maybe just yesterday, and I asked Lexi to look into it for us. Lexi's our real property director, and Treasurer Swan is here as well if we need any help with the figures. But Lexi, could you just give us your brief summary? If we need to go into executive, we can, but I think that we can probably handle it in public.
Okay. The county has already taken title to this property. We were granted that, I want to say a couple weeks ago. I have that here in my paperwork, a date. Judge Offerdew signed on September 15th, giving us the title to the property. We did take all the proper steps that were needed for notices. The mother, whose the name the property is under is Kelly Chenier. She did not have an estate. Nothing has gone to probate. So everything that was mailed out would have been mailed to Kelly Chenier. There is currently $34,349.13 that are outstanding in taxes. Ms. Chenier had owned the property since April of 2013. The tax deed, like I said, has been filed into the Warren County Clerk's office into the county's name. We would have sent a notice back in September of 2020 to the 122 Jenny Jill Drive to Kelly Chenier, making her aware that there was outstanding taxes and that we were moving forward with a foreclosure process. On April 9th, we have a certified mail receipt where we mailed notice to Kelly Chenier. And I was also at the property in the beginning of June. June 8th. At 12:05, I put a notice on the door. I also knocked on the door while I was there. There was a car in the driveway. nobody came to the door. We also did notification in the local newspapers, which, you know, we're obligated to do. They ran in the Sun Community News as well as the Post-Star on April 3rd, April 17th, and May 1st. So we've taken every step that was, expected of us for notification. There was plenty of notification given, but we have never heard from anyone on this matter until just myself, just this week. I spoke to Thomas himself. He reached out to me and called me. We've never heard anything from either of her daughters, any attorneys or anything.
So I know Mr. McGlinch did say that his daughter was having trouble, just kind of coming to grips with the whole thing over time, but we definitely gave all the legal notices. Mr. Terwilliger, do you have anything to add on that aspect?
No, I'm certain that we did all the proper legal notices. I mean, I would defend that in court. I mean, my response is, we have a court judgment from Judge Offered. It was signed September 15th. We have an executed deed from the treasurer conveying this property and the others that were part of that judgment to the county. And at that point, someone's remedy is to go back to court, is to go in front of Judge Offered, make a motion and see if the court does have the power to do things, to take a piece of property out of a sale or do something like that. That would be your remedy, really, is to make a motion in front of the court like that. I mean, I'll accept service of it. That's my duty, to accept service of paper like that on behalf of the county, especially a motion like this in front of a court where we were the officers bringing that case. One thing that is a bit of an issue, with turning property back to a former owner after a foreclosure judgment's been issued by the court, is that the foreclosure judgment by the real property tax law, it wipes out all the other lien holders. It wipes out the state, it wipes out infants, it would wipe out mechanics liens, a mortgage, even judgment liens that are filed against the property. It wouldn't wipe out a money judgment against a person, but it would wipe out that lien against the property. It would, in a sense, allow someone to deliberately let their property go into foreclosure if they were certain the county would give them a chance to sell it back prior to the auction, and then buy the property back from the county before the auction, and they've wiped out their mortgage and all the other liens on it. I mean, it could potentially allow someone to defraud their creditors in the county by allowing someone to buy a property back like this after it had been granted to the county from a court judgment of foreclosure. The county would be abetting that fraud. And that's my word of caution on
Can I respond?
this remedy.
Just
Yeah.
a minute, yes.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Terwilliger. I appreciate your legal update and the word of caution to the board. I don't believe that's what's happening in this situation, but it is good to keep that in mind. Mr. McGlinch, I just want to give the committee members a second to see if they have any comments or questions, and then you can address the committee. Supervisor McGowan, then Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Lexi, 34,000 and change.
Mhm.
So, and they bought it in 2013.
Correct.
All right. So have they ever paid taxes on it?
Yes. So the first year of outstanding taxes was in 2015. However, that included the 2014-15 school taxes. So that's when it initially started, a year, I guess, after she purchased. So the school didn't get paid, and then the 15 town and county didn't get paid. And so there was 15, 16, and 17. And then it looks like something went on with 18, but it does show delinquent off to the side. And then there was 19, 20, and 21 that were also not paid. I know that in the past, Ms. Chenier had filed bankruptcy numerous times, but that never set up a plan for the county treasurer's office to receive any money for tax payments. It was usually dismissed. And then it would just roll back around. I know I've been to the house numerous times in my time as the director posting notices or speaking with Kelly on the phone. So it is an ongoing issue with the outstanding taxes.
Thank you. Meg,
You may.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Tom?
Well, speak to me, please.
Oh, sorry, I'd like to ask Tom, how much would he be able to put down? You know, he said he has a substantial amount of money or some money to put toward it, so I want to see, I'm just, I'm touched, and I understand all the situations, and the last thing I want to do is, you know, have anybody lose their property in the family and that, and I understand the circumstances. But this is a lot of money, and it's been a long period of time, and we have made all the efforts to get this cleared up before we've had to go into the foreclosure process, and after our attorney explained to us, you know, all that might be involved, it becomes kind of a thin line, in my opinion. But if we're able to ask how much,
Okay. I will let him address this in a second. I know Supervisor Conover had his hand up too.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think what the county attorney is saying, and Mr. Twilliger, you please correct me if I say anything that's not correct in terms of this process and state law and the dates and everything that's spelled out in the state law, that if there's a remedy, it's with a judge in a court. In other words, that I'm not sure that we even have the authority. I question whether we even have the authority to modify the law and the process. Now, a judge may, underscore the word may, have that discretion. I don't know. But I guess my question to Mr. Twilliger, Madam Chair, would be, do we even have the authority to consider something like this? My concern is it would actually be a violation of statute, I think, if we took any kind of administrative action, because our action would be an administrative action. It would not be any kind of variance of the law. So I asked Mr. Twilliger, I don't know that we even have the authority to, at this stage, to do this, to respond to this request administratively.
Could you speak to that,
Yes, thank
Mr.
you.
Terwilliger?
In the key section of this is the real property tax law, section 1136. And in it, the court has the power to do anything, has the full power to remedy any rights, priorities, claims, demands, anything like that of people in regards to the property. The court still maintains that power to do so, definitely. And the county is now the owner in fee simple absolute of that parcel and the others which were foreclosed upon by the order of the court signed September 15, and then by the treasurer's deed executed September 24. The county now owns those completely, so the county does have the power to dispose of that property as an owner of it. So I can't say that you don't have the power to do it. The board does have the power to dispose of this property or convey it now. I'm saying it's definitely not advisable to do so. I think the best remedy is for people aggrieved, like these folks are, is to go to court and ask for help from the judge that way.
Thank you, Mr. Terwilliger. Mr. McLinch, go ahead. No, it's okay. I want to give you an opportunity.
Going backwards here. On the legality of it, on Mr. Terwilliger's advice, because he did return a call to my daughter, we did talk to attorneys. I spent an entire day on the phone going through online and the phone book, and no one seemed to think that that was a procedure, that there was a procedure they weren't familiar with it anyway on how to do that, or it was too late, or they just weren't available at the time to do it. But mostly it was no one thought that that was a remedy because it was too late. But it does on page 2 of the Warren County Estate Auction Terms and Conditions of Sale. It says that the The Warren County Board reserves the right to reject any and all bids and cancel or postpone sales at any time before the actual delivery of deeds. I'm not a lawyer, but, and two, I'm sorry, Lexi, we did speak, you were very nice. We're not denying the service or your effort, only to say that she didn't open her mother's mail. When it did finally come in her name, and like I said, she's just overwhelmed, just couldn't deal with it. And she finally realized the gravity of it. That's when she reached out to me, and we came here, and I'm just told it was too late. And again, on my conversations with attorneys and how to approach this, the best advice I got was to come here and ask to get this postponed. We're not asking that the debt be wiped out. We want to pay it. As far as the other debts, the only other debt that any of us are aware of is a Medicaid, because she had a lot of illness. That's why she died prematurely. There was, I think, a $10,000, $11,000 Medicaid. That is the only other debt. There's no mortgage. There's no car liens or mechanic liens. The car they drive, I gave to her.
Madam Chair.
I want to go back to Supervisor McGowan's question. Did you want to address, well, go ahead, Supervisor Conover, then I'm going to go back to
Mr.
Alexi.
Twilliger, I mean, we own the property, but we have regular laws that tell how we, as a municipality, can dispose of property. And so if I understand now their request is that we postpone, not reverse, but postpone the sale, so that you can pursue whatever options, whatever remedy would be required or allowed by statute or by law.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's what you're asking for here today. I just want to be clear about that. We may have the authority to do that, but I don't know that we have the authority to take public property, what's now public property, and just assign it back to a specific individual. I'm not sure that we have that kind of authority. Maybe you could amplify on that a little bit. Because in effect, what we're doing through the public auction is we're auctioning the property that we now own. It's a public process. Anybody can bid on the process, et cetera. And we would do that for any piece of property that we would declare surplus.
Right, we do already own it, as Mr. Terwilliger said. I guess, I think we kind of understand the legal options. Lexi, knowing, from your experience of prior processes and what we also have going on this year, do you have a recommendation for the committee?
I recommend that we do not do this. Mr. Conover, you were a supervisor a few years ago when we ran into a similar situation. So that would be my recommendation. They could, because they are not the owners, so they don't have outstanding taxes, they could go to the auction and try to buy the property along with anyone else. But the recommendation would be to do what we have recommended to anybody else that has contacted us, and that would be to talk to an attorney and file an order with the courts to get a motion for a stay. That's the only thing that we can that I would recommend at this time. I would not recommend the county going through the process of turning this property back over, since we already have taken title to this process. There is, just so you all know, also a New York State tax lien with this as well, under Kelly's name.
All right, hearing that, do I have anything further from the committee? Mr. McGlinch, do you want to address the committee?
Terwilliger to go first, or?
Robert, do you want to go? Go ahead.
I did want to add something in regards to like the state tax lien. That's one thing that the statute specifically wipes out, is in this, when the court makes that order that conveys it to the county, even the state, infants, incompetents, anyone with any right, title, claim, interest, lien, or equity of redemption on the property is forever barred and foreclosed on it. So the court's given the county an incredible advantage in being able to take these properties by tax foreclosure that isn't available in other kinds of foreclosure. It's not available in a mortgage foreclosure, in a sense of wiping out other tax liens and things. So we really have like an extraordinary power that's been given to the county on it to use. And so that's why, again, I caution against taking property that's been granted to the county this way and conveying it to someone or conveying it to a previous owner, because it does wipe out anything else that was on the property. And if we do it in one case, people are going to come up and want it in another instance. Everyone's going to want it because there's going to be a lot of people with hardships, and everyone's going to want theirs and think theirs is more deserving than the next person's. Really have to caution against it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your caution from the county attorney's perspective. I do want to close our discussion here, but give Mr. McGlinch one more opportunity to address the
I
committee.
just want to reiterate, we're not asking to be turned back over. I wasn't aware of the state tax, just a delay. I don't know when the next auction is. If we haven't made good on it, take it and sell it then. We're just asking for delay so we can do the procedures.
I know that you guys are in a very difficult situation. We all are feeling your difficulty, and we are sorry that we are not going to take action today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming in person. Mr. McGowan.
Were you gonna ask him how much you could put down? And number two, if we do sell it, are we responsible for paying that tax lien from New York State?
No. No.
Treasurer Swan, do you want to address that other question, please? And no, I don't think we are responsible because the lien is, now we own it and the lien is gone.
Correct.
All right, as far as partial payments, we do have an installment plan. However, in order to enter the installment plan, you have to be the titled owner of the property. So right now, the titled owner of the property is the county, so I can't accept an installment payment. That's the bottom line. And it's just as an FYI, we worked out a long time ago an agreement with DSS where we take the proceeds from the sale and we pay the DSS lien. Okay, if there's enough money from the proceeds of the sale. So DSS does, even though we could technically say you're done, too bad, we do pay parts of, we do pay as much of that DSS lien as we can.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's the New York State lien.
No, that is a separate lien.
The Warren County Department of Social Services has the Medicare lien, I think it is, on the property. So we will pay as much of that as we can out of the proceeds. If we can pay all of it, we'll pay all of it. That's an agreement we worked out with them probably 15, 18 years ago.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
So if we're not gonna take action, really, their best opportunity is to go back to the judge and see if they can't get a stay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Lexi.
And just to make you aware, you have very limited time to do that.
I'm well aware of that. And like I said, I spoke to numerous lawyers and no one seemed to think that was an option or, how to go about it. And so that's why I'm here. The last best advice I got was to come here.
Thank you for coming in person.
On the suggestion of going to the auction and buying it, that's just not doable. The property is valued at over $170,000. It's only $40,000 owed. You're going to get your money back and then some. But I can't afford to. It's going to go for a lot more than I could afford. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And your nervousness didn't show. You did a very good job, and I'm sorry, it was difficult. Sorry.
Our next item on the agenda is to go into executive session to discuss various matters. Robert, I think on the pending litigation side, there is something in the foreclosure as well as the Morgan case. Just an update. Are there any other cases?
I don't.
Was there any, Chairwoman, was there another case you wanted to discuss in executive session?
I believe it was listed on The topics for executive session are listed on the agenda.
Just those topics, okay. So those two, the foreclosure, the Morgan case, status of the county attorney position, which is personnel matter, and then another personnel matter under employment history of a particular employee. I think that's it. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Thank you Supervisor Garrity, second by Supervisor McGowan. All those in favor?